Sophia Bennett had always believed that every building carried a memory. As one of Boston's most respected architects, she spent her days restoring old landmarks, studying forgotten blueprints, and bringing abandoned places back to life. Every cracked wall, every weathered staircase, every faded window told a story. Yet despite spending years preserving the history of others, Sophia had quietly allowed her own life to become painfully ordinary. At 32, she lived alone in a modern apartment overlooking the Charles River. She had a successful career, financial stability, and everything most people considered a dream life. Friends admired her achievements, coworkers respected her talent, and strangers envied her social media photos. But photographs rarely captured silence. Every evening she unlocked the door to an apartment where no one waited for her. She ate dinner while scrolling through emails, watched television without paying attention, and often fell asleep on the couch before midnight. 2 years earlier, her fiancé had walked away after admitting he no longer wanted the future they had planned together. There had been no betrayal, no dramatic argument, no scandal. Only a sentence she still couldn't forget. "I think we're becoming strangers." Those words haunted her more than anger ever could. She buried herself in work, convinced success would eventually replace loneliness. It never did. One rainy October afternoon, Sophia received a phone call from the nursing home where her father had spent his final months. William Bennett had passed away peacefully in his sleep. Her father had been more than a parent. He had been her best friend. After her mother's death when Sophia was only 11, William had raised her alone. He taught her how to repair furniture, plant flowers, read blueprints, and never judge someone by appearances. He always believed every problem had a solution. Except time. The funeral was small. Only a handful of relatives attended. Sophia noticed something strange. An elderly man stood far away beneath a black umbrella throughout the entire service. He never spoke, never approached. When everyone else left, the stranger quietly placed a single white rose beside William's grave and disappeared before Sophia could reach him. She never saw his face clearly. Days later, while cleaning her father's old house, Sophia opened a dusty wooden cabinet hidden beneath the staircase. Inside, she found dozens of family photo albums, journals, and carefully organized boxes. At the bottom sat an old leather-bound book. As she lifted it, something slipped from between its pages. An envelope. Her name was written across the front in her father's handwriting. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was only one folded sheet of paper. It contained a single sentence. "If you ever lose yourself, go to Blackwood Manor. Everything you need has been waiting for you. Nothing else. No address. No explanation. No signature. Only those words." Sophia searched every room hoping to find another clue. Nothing. She searched online. Very little information existed. Blackwood Manor was located deep in the Green Mountains of Vermont. Built sometime during the late 19th century. Abandoned for over 40 years. Local newspapers described it as one of New England's most mysterious estates. Several owners had attempted to restore it. Every project failed. People claimed workers quit after hearing unexplained noises. Some insisted lights appeared in empty windows at night. Others believed hidden tunnels connected the mansion to forgotten underground chambers. Sophia dismissed the ghost stories. Old buildings made strange sounds. History attracted myths. Still, why had her father wanted her to go there? The following Friday, she packed a suitcase, canceled her weekend meetings, and began the 4-hour drive north. The farther she traveled from Boston, the narrower the roads became. Towering pine forests surrounded the highway. Autumn leaves painted the mountains in shades of crimson, orange, and gold. By late afternoon, rain clouds rolled across the valley. Her GPS finally announced, "You have arrived." Ahead stood enormous iron gates, nearly hidden beneath climbing ivy. Beyond them sat Blackwood Manor. Even neglected, it looked magnificent. Gray stone walls stretched toward the sky. Massive chimneys rose above steep slate roofs. Broken windows reflected flashes of distant lightning. Nature had begun reclaiming everything. Vines covered balconies. Wildflowers pushed through cracked stone pathways. Ancient oak trees guarded the estate like silent soldiers. Sophia stepped from her car. For reasons she couldn't explain, it didn't feel unfamiliar. It felt like coming home. Before she reached the gate, a voice startled her. "You shouldn't have come." She turned. An elderly man wearing a faded brown coat stood beside a small caretaker's cottage. His white beard reached nearly to his chest. Deep wrinkles framed tired blue eyes. "I was just looking," Sophia answered politely. People who come looking usually leave disappointed. She hesitated before showing him her father's letter. The old man's expression changed instantly. His hands began shaking. "William's daughter. You knew my father?" "I knew your entire family." Sophia stared at him in disbelief. "My name is Thomas Harris. I've been waiting nearly 20 years to meet you." He reached into his pocket, removed an enormous rusted key, and slowly unlocked the gates. "They're finally yours to open." Sophia frowned. "What do you mean, mine?" Thomas smiled sadly. "Your father wanted to tell you. He ran out of time." The gates groaned open. Every step toward the mansion felt heavier than the last. Inside, dust floated through shafts of fading sunlight. Furniture remained exactly where someone had left it decades earlier. Grand staircases curved toward the second floor. Portraits lined endless hallways. Crystal chandeliers hung silently beneath ceilings covered in extraordinary hand-painted artwork. Despite years of abandonment, the mansion possessed an undeniable elegance. Sophia wandered slowly through the entrance hall. Then she froze. Directly above the fireplace hung an enormous oil painting of a young woman. Sophia's heart nearly stopped. The woman looked exactly like her. The same green eyes, the same dark hair, the same smile. Even the tiny birthmark beneath her left ear was identical. Only the clothing was different. She wore a long Victorian dress. At the bottom of the portrait was a brass plaque. Eleanor Bennett, 1918. Sophia stepped backward. "That's impossible." Thomas approached quietly. "Everyone says that the first time." "Who was she?" "Your great-grandmother." "My great-grandmother couldn't have looked exactly like me." Thomas nodded. "Every Bennett daughter does." Sophia couldn't stop staring. It felt less like viewing an ancestor, and more like looking into a mirror that reflected another century. As darkness settled outside, Thomas lit several old lanterns. Electricity had long since stopped working. The warm glow transformed the mansion into something almost magical. Over dinner inside the caretaker's cottage, Thomas finally began revealing fragments of the truth. More than 100 years earlier, Eleanor Bennett had become one of the wealthiest women in New England. She secretly owned lumber companies, textile mills, farmland, and shipping businesses. At a time when powerful men believed women should never control wealth, Eleanor hid much of her business empire through complicated legal agreements. Very few people knew the truth. Then tragedy struck. A mysterious fire destroyed part of the estate. Several important documents disappeared. Soon afterward, Eleanor vanished. Some believed she died. Others claimed she escaped overseas. No one ever proved either story. "But why didn't my father tell me?" Sophia asked. Thomas stared into the fireplace. "Because someone else has been searching for what Eleanor left behind." Outside, somewhere beyond the trees, a branch snapped. Neither of them noticed the dark SUV parked far beyond the front gates. Inside sat two men watching the mansion through binoculars. One lowered the glasses and quietly said, "She's finally here." And for the first time in 40 years, the hunt for Blackwood Manor had begun. Sophia barely slept that night. The wind whispered through broken windows. Old floorboards creaked beneath the weight of time, and every unfamiliar sound reminded her that she was hundreds of miles from the life she had always known. Yet it wasn't fear that kept her awake. It was curiosity. Who were the men outside the gates? Why had her father never mentioned Blackwood Manor? And what secret could possibly be valuable enough for strangers to wait decades for her arrival? Before sunrise, she quietly left her room and wandered through the mansion with a lantern. The silence felt different now, not empty, but patient, as though the house itself had been waiting for someone to listen. She paused in front of Eleanor Bennett's portrait once again. Something caught her eye. The portrait frame wasn't perfectly straight. As an architect, Sophia noticed details most people ignored. She gently lifted one corner. Click. A hidden latch released. The entire portrait slowly swung outward like a secret door. Behind it was a narrow compartment containing a small brass key and another handwritten note. It read, "The greatest treasures are never hidden in vaults. They are hidden where only the worthy will think to look." Sophia stared at the message. Thomas had been right. Her father hadn't sent her here to find money. He had sent her here to uncover the truth. Using the brass key, Sophia searched room after room until she discovered an old library on the west side of the mansion. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves covered every wall. One shelf looked newer than the others. She inserted the key. With a heavy rumble, the bookshelf slowly slid aside. Behind it was a spiral staircase descending deep beneath the manor. The air grew colder with every step. At the bottom, she entered a massive underground chamber, unlike anything she had ever imagined. Shelves filled with leather-bound journals stretched across the room. Wooden crates held maps, business records, family letters, and photographs dating back more than a century. In the center stood a large oak table. On it rested a polished wooden box, engraved with the Bennett family crest. Sophia opened it carefully. Inside were the original ownership documents for Blackwood Manor, thousands of acres of surrounding forest, and several companies that had never legally changed hands. Her hands trembled. The signatures were authentic. The properties, now worth hundreds of millions of dollars, still belonged to the Bennett family. But there was something even more valuable. A final journal written by Eleanor herself. Sophia opened the first page. "If you are reading this, then you are my granddaughter or great-granddaughter. If fate has brought you here, it means our family's greatest secret survived." Page after page revealed the incredible story. Eleanor had built one of the largest business empires in New England entirely on her own. She employed widows, immigrant women, and single mothers who had nowhere else to work. She paid equal wages long before it became common. She secretly funded schools, hospitals, and scholarships for girls who were denied education. Many powerful businessmen hated her success. Some attempted to steal everything she owned. Others spread lies to destroy her reputation. When Eleanor discovered a group of wealthy investors planned to forge documents and seize her businesses, she transferred ownership into an elaborate legal trust that could only be unlocked by her direct descendants. Then she disappeared from public life. Not because she had lost, but because she wanted the truth to remain hidden until the world was ready. Sophia wiped tears from her eyes. She finally understood why her father had guarded the secret. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed above. Footsteps. Voices. Someone had entered the mansion. Sophia extinguished her lantern. She heard unfamiliar men searching room after room. "The girl has to be here. Find the journals. Search every wall." Her heart pounded. She quietly climbed halfway up the staircase and peered through a narrow opening. 3 men wearing dark jackets were tearing apart the library. Their leader was a sharply dressed businessman in his 60s. Thomas whispered from behind a bookshelf. "That's Victor Langford." Sophia recognized the name immediately. Langford Industries, one of the largest real estate companies in the country. Thomas spoke softly. His grandfather helped steal Eleanor's businesses. They've spent generations trying to find the original documents. Victor smiled coldly as he examined the library. "I knew William Bennett never destroyed the evidence." He turned toward the hidden bookshelf. Sophia realized he was only seconds away from discovering the underground chamber. Thinking quickly, she grabbed one of Eleanor's journals and quietly slipped through a second tunnel she hadn't noticed before. The passage led outside behind the mansion. She ran through the forest while rain poured from the dark sky. Branches scratched her arms. Mud covered her shoes. Behind her, angry voices echoed through the trees. "There! She's heading toward the lake." Sophia Reek had an old stone bridge crossing a narrow river. The wooden boards beneath it had rotted with age. She stopped. Victor and his men emerged from the forest. "There is nowhere left to run," Victor called. "Give me the journals." "They don't belong to you," Sophia replied. Victor laughed. "You have no idea what those papers are worth." Sophia looked at the rushing river below, then back at Victor. "My great-grandmother spent her life protecting people from men exactly like you." She held up the journal. "And I'm not letting her down." Victor stepped forward. At that exact moment, police sirens filled the valley. Dozens of patrol vehicles surrounded the estate. Thomas had secretly contacted state authorities the moment he saw the SUV arrive the previous evening. Victor attempted to escape but was arrested along with his associates. Investigators later uncovered decades of fraud, document forgery, bribery, and illegal land seizures connected to Langford Industries. The Bennett documents exposed everything. Within months, courts officially restored Blackwood Manor and the surrounding properties to Sophia. News outlets across America covered the extraordinary story. Journalists expected Sophia to become one of the country's newest billionaires. Instead, she surprised everyone. She sold several commercial properties, not to become richer, but to fulfill Eleanor's unfinished dream. Blackwood Manor underwent a 3-year restoration. The broken windows were replaced. The grand staircase shined once more. Gardens bloomed again. The library reopened. But the mansion would never become a private residence. Sophia transformed it into the Eleanor Bennett Foundation. Women escaping domestic abuse received free housing there. Young entrepreneurs learned how to start businesses. Single mothers earned college scholarships. Girls interested in architecture, engineering, medicine, and science found mentors who believed in them. Every room that had once gathered dust now echoed with laughter, learning, and hope. On opening day, thousands of visitors walked through the restored halls. In the entrance stood Eleanor's portrait. Beside it hung a photograph of William Bennett. Under both pictures was a simple inscription: "True wealth is measured by the lives you change." Late that evening, after everyone had left, Sophia wandered through the quiet mansion alone. She stood before her father's framed letter. "If you ever lose yourself, go to Blackwood Manor. Everything you need has been waiting for you." She smiled through tears. He hadn't sent her there to inherit a fortune. He had sent her there to discover who she truly was. Looking out across the mountains glowing beneath the setting sun, Sophia finally understood that home was never just a place. It was a purpose. And sometimes, the greatest inheritance a family can leave behind isn't money, land, or a mansion. It's the courage to continue a legacy of kindness, integrity, and hope. From that day forward, every young woman who entered Blackwood Manor carrying fear, heartbreak, or uncertainty left carrying something far more valuable: confidence, opportunity, and the belief that no matter how broken your past may seem, one brave decision can change the story of your entire life.